Welcome everyone to the Green Party Gender Equity Initiative session hosted by the Asia Pacific Greens Federation Women's Network, or APGFWN in short. Throughout the session, you'll hear the acronym APGFWN many times. I hope you understand our repeated use of the term. If you're having technical problems, please send DM or direct message on Zoom chat to the ID Tech Support for help. In addition, I would like to also inform the participants that we will have breaks for Q&A at the end of each session. So feel free to send questions regarding the presentation on the Zoom chat anytime. We will be taking a group photo several times during the session. If you do not want your face to show, please close your video. I'm Soo-hee Lee, one of the co-conveners of APGFWN and your facilitator and a speaker for today. I'm currently one of the co-chairs of Green Party Korea International Committee and a coordinator for APGFWN Advanced Gender Equity Training. Allow me to introduce you to the wonderful speakers of today's session. Michelle Sheether. Michelle has been an international development coordinator for the Australian Greens International Development Committee for the last 6 years. In the span of 30+ years of her career, she has worked on all 7 continents, and her focus spans from human rights to sustainable agriculture to gender equity. She has worked with Greenpeace International, Amnesty International, and in several UN conferences. Recently, she has worked on global training programs such as the APGFWN Gender Equity Programs. We have another speaker today, Anita Nautiyal. Anita is co-founder of the India Greens Party and has had many roles both nationally and globally. Her work has been focused on empowering and promoting more women to participate in green politics and creating space for women in politics by conducting trainings, webinars, and workshops across Asia. She is currently APGFWN Mentoring Program Coordinator. Today, the speakers and I will introduce you to the work of APGFWN and some of the projects that promoted gender equity inside Green parties. What is the Asia Pacific Greens Federation Women's Network, or APGFWN? APGFWN was established in 2015 and continues to be a space where all women guided by green principles come together. We currently have 18 member countries from Asia Pacific and Middle East regions. We believe green women, each from unique yet similar difficulties in their own countries, can help each other and work together for the betterment of our future planet. Our objectives, therefore, are focused on increasing the involvement of women as members in green parties, promoting more women to hold leadership and candidacy in their parties, and providing them opportunities to develop skills they require for their roles as members and leaders. We believe our work will help women build capacity to engage, act, and lead in green politics. In our last annual general meeting, we elected 6 office bearers who are from Korea, India, Japan, and Nepal. Apgwn and I are the APGFWN co-conveners. Rachna and Minami are APGFWN secretaries. Suin is our treasurer, and Adita is our representative to the Global Greens Women's Network. APGFWN has worked closely together with the Australian Greens International Development Committee, or IDC, since 2017. For the last 5 years, the Australian Greens IDC helped the network commence many projects that are to be presented later in the session. The network has led an array of gender equity projects. We launched mentoring programs, webinar series, and a series of national and international gender equity trainings. We also collected case studies from our member parties to learn about their successes and challenges. We also created a gender equity online toolkit which is available online for anyone to use to implement gender equity within their green parties. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the work of our office bearers, IDC coordinator, IDC expert member, and APGFWN intern, without whose help many of the projects just mentioned were not possible. One of the most dedicated projects of ours is the APGFWN mentoring program. Now, I will hand over to Anita, our mentoring program coordinator, for her kind introduction to the program. Anita.
Thanks, Suhi. So I'll be talking about the mentoring program and the green women leaders across the globe support the women who are interested to be the part of green politics in Asia Pacific and Middle East, to learn how green politics is done smoothly and about the campaigns, policies, and leadership. So this transfer of knowledge from the global leaders to the regional and upcoming aspirational leaders are transferred. Thanks, Suhi. Now, the mentoring program was initiated in December 2017 with the 4 pairs, and now we are in the 5th year of the mentorship program since it started. And in 2021, we have started to take 2 intakes annually, which helps more and more women to get trained and take the leadership position in their parties. So this mentoring program helps the kind of partnership is developed, which helps women to learn more green politics, and the structure is in such a way that it also helps in developing the personal goals, and mentors be their role model, or they can suggest other role models. They can work on their communication skills, speaking skills, listening skills, and this can only happen when we have a relationship with the mentor. And we can see that the involvement in, because women are not proactive in politics, and this program helps women to understand that how they can be proactive in politics and how they can support to change the politics, which is new to the world right now. And they also work on different skills, their goals for their, to take the leadership in the party, to set up their own women's network, and to, work efficiently with the position they hold in the party. Currently, we have 12 mentors and mentees enrolled in the program. Totally 24 mentors, 24 mentees have completed the program for 4 years. And now we have 5 more in the next intake, which is coming up in March 2022. And these are the list for different years. Total, we have 24 mentees mentored by 17 mentors. The countries from where our mentors and mentees come. So mentors are globally, and mentees are from Asia Pacific, Middle East region. In this program, we also have annual mentees online training program. It's a gathering for the alumni for past 4 years. They learn new techniques like fundraising. They also learn how efficiently they can work on their program and get more and more from their mentors. We had 2 online trainings in past, and the third training is on April 23rd this year. And in this gathering, mentees know each other, and also mentees, those who have already completed their mentoring program, they share their experience and knowledge, and also the mentors and trainers give some new skills or set of trainings to the mentees. The mentoring program also holds mentors online training, and it's similar to the mentees, and all the mentors gather and learn from each other's experience and know each other, and it makes the program more efficient. This program also involves a skill development program, which is developed from the webinar series. The 3 webinar recordings are included in this program, and it explains how the women's network can be set up in the parties in the countries, how to facilitate and organize meetings, and then how to organize the election campaign and effectively work on that. It also involves the manuals for the mentees and mentors, and resources, online resources available for the mentees, where they have a lot of reading material, and also the mentoring relationship agreement is also there. There's a special program to enhance this mentoring program. There's a special program for the next mentor program. This is an internship program for those who want to organize national mentoring program in their country or party, or become the next mentor. This is 1-year program, scholarship program, and is in 2 phases. So the future plans for the national mentoring program is to organize in Nepal and Japan as a pilot project. The program, mentoring program also has mentees turn mentor. 2 mentees from the first intake, 2017, they are now the mentors in their own countries, in their own language. And this is how the mentoring program is growing bigger and bigger. Now I will discuss about the APGFWN webinar series. The webinar series is held by number of green women around the globe, and they bring a lot of experience on the women's issue, women standing for elections, and women and water, and women and forest. So we have all these webinars are on our Asia Pacific Green Federation YouTube channel. You can subscribe to the channel and keep updated yourself with the new webinar recordings. It helps a lot as it is a resource for a resource of videos, and creates a library. It is these webinars are interactive. The attendees can discuss with the speakers, panelists, and they are on the global issues and key topics related to women. Also campaigning and other topics. And it is These webinars are also part of Gender Equity Toolkit, which is on the APGF website. Recently, the webinar was held on 3rd February, and the speaker was from Japan, talking about women standing for local government and how she could manage to win the seat in the metropolitan city.
Thank you, Anita. So that was our first section where we introduce you to our webinars and our mentoring program. I would like to open the floor now to if you have any questions regarding the mentoring program and the webinar series.
Is there anyone here that would like to maybe say a couple of words on having experienced it? Maybe Alpu, would you like, you have experienced it as a mentee and a mentor. Do you want to say a few words on how it benefited you? You're on mute, Alpu.
Okay. Since Alpu is unavailable for the moment, I'm gonna share a bit of my experience as a mentee of the mentorship program. I enjoyed the mentorship program because it was a one-on-one program where I could ask my mentor for not only the guidance on what I aim to gain, the skills I aim to gain, such as knowing how to write public speech, knowing about green politics and policies, and being able to deliver them in plain words. But also, there were many times when I could consult with her on some of the issues that I faced in my party in caring about my work as a woman member and as sometimes a head of a committee. Now, I realize that this is something that you can not have anywhere else because the experiences that we share are different and very unique at the same time, but they have similar roots, although we live in different countries and we work in different parties. So that was my take in the mentorship program. I've finished my mentorship program, which was carried out in a span of a year, and I must say that please, I would like all of you to look into the APGF website, check out what kind of programs we run, check out our webinars, and if you would like to create your own mentorship program, please, once again, have our website as your reference and carry out your own series of mentorship program, which would be fantastic, I believe, and share your experiences once you do. Rose asked the question of, can you talk about challenges, talk about the challenges of working across different languages, culture, and countries? Anita, would you like to take that question?
Rose, there are challenges because of the language. Some countries have English as a third language and some have English as first language. Definitely it has a challenge in itself. But when both the mentors and mentees, they understand each other. And even one of the mentors said that I know a few words of Nepali and I'll learn more Nepali. And it really helps when both mentors and mentees are open to learn new things. But the mentoring program is going excellent. Without taking care of these challenges, they just ignore these challenges, and it's going really well. And this is why we have started 2 intakes in a year annually.
Thank you. And now we have Apgfwn.
Yes. Hi, sorry I missed that out. I want to add one thing, and that is that this mentorship program helped me a lot. Myself and my mentor, worked together for a year, and here is one thing that I understood, and that is that women have to support each other. Women have to guide each other. They have to mentor each other. That's the only way we can move forward in politics, and it helped me a lot understanding that, and that's the, I think, crux of the matter. Yeah, that's my take on this, Suhi.
Thank you. So, as I mentioned earlier, Apgfwn, who just spoke, is one of my colleague, one of our office bearers, one of our co-conveners. I love working with her, and I'm so glad that we're all here together supporting each other. Now, on our next section, Michelle will share us about the gender equity training. Michelle.
Thank you, Suhi. Will you start the PowerPoint?
Yes, I will.
Okay, so in addition to the mentoring program, another key component of the work we do is the gender equity training. It usually consists of either a 2-day face-to-face or a 2 or 3 or 4-day set of modules that add up to 16 hours that is online, particularly with COVID and particularly with distances. So we've found that the parties that we've worked with on gender equity, it's really deepened the impact of the women's network in that party. And it's really helped women work together and gain confidence and gain skills. So we're looking at the program going and expanding it when we can. It's also another way of making women's network being taken seriously within parties too. One of the key things we do, we call it road mapping, or some people could call it a strategic plan with a timeline. But key is to do a 2 to 3 year plan or roadmap for the women's network. Then it's agreed. Sometimes it helps, it's agreed with APGFWN trainers, so there's other people watching progress as well. And often it goes to the executive of the party as well. The National Women Network usually sets up its own body of conveners, co-conveners, treasurers, secretaries. And with the plan, if it's 2 or 3 years, to review it at key intersections, to review it at key moments after you've reached a goal. Also very important to keep the Women Network in contact with regular online meetings or face-to-face if possible. Next, please. So, one more. So having targets and key goals is really important so that the measures actually go somewhere. So the aim of the overarching gender equity work is to build the female leadership of the party to be 50% of both membership and the executives of the party. In very few places in our region, the Asia Pacific Greens Federation, have we achieved, particularly in the Global South countries. But it's an important goal to work towards, and some parties are making headway on that by having shifted from a male president system to a co-convener system of male and female leadership, and to actively be looking at bringing more women, not in a symbolic way, but in a real non-tokenistic way onto the executives. The important thing is to implement, not just have, but to implement the policies on the women and gender equity within your party as well, to adapt them, implement them. Okay, we do have a framework policy that we can give to any party that is called Women and Gender Equity Policy from APGF. Okay, so these are the trainings we've done so far on gender equity. We started with a pilot in India in 2019, and that might be the next slide, I think. There we are, in Noida, which is just outside Delhi. Women's training can be after a national convention or after another reason why people had gathered, and that way it keeps the costs a lot lower as well. And here it was after the national convention. The women gathered for 2 days to have the inaugural meeting of forming the first India Greens Party Women's Network, and that's some of the participants there and the sessions going ahead. So from the pilot, we trained a couple of others at that pilot that Anita and I and Rishana from Nepal did. And from that also, we grew it into online gender equity workshops once COVID hit us all, and we adapted. The first one online was with the India Greens, where they had one national and one regional in the west of India, Mumbai and Maharashtra states. So they've now conducted around 4 gender equity trainings in India, with a 5th one in a couple of months. Next slide, please. From there, yeah, this is some more gender equity workshops in India, the national one. It's a country of 35 states and territories, and so the party's in many states with many different cultures and languages, so to have the national training was very powerful. And since then, they've also done some state trainings too. Next slide, please. There's the third. That's the Greater Mumbai Maharashtra region. And the 4th was in Chhattisgarh state, which is in central India. That was face-to-face. It is a state with a large population of indigenous tribal women, and a state where I think eventually India Greens are hoping to run some candidates at local government election. So another function of the gender equity trainings is to encourage and help train women to run for local election. We have also done a national gender equity training in Nepal. The very first one was March last year, and there's another one scheduled in the next couple of months. This is the photo of the participants with their COVID measures. You can see as well. A very nice thing from the Nepali Greens that now they're looking at having a goal of 50 to 60% of women on their executive, which would be up from 30. So that was a great news to hear. We have the Pakistan Green Women's Network training on this weekend in Karachi, and that would be the first national one that they would be doing as well. So, well, some of us are participating in that tomorrow. Bangladesh, we're helping revitalize the women's network there and helping build up the women's network with the view of eventually holding a gender equity training but recognizing that first of all, we need to help the party strengthen their women's network before we get to that phase. But we will get there. One way that we're, in the answer to Rose's previous question, one way we're trying to decentralize this work is to train as many trainers as we can, so that they can do the training in their own national or even regional languages, such as Malayalam in Kerala state in India. And so far we've trained 17 representatives from the parties. We concentrated initially in India, then Nepal, then Pakistan and Bangladesh, but we had delegates from Mongolia and South Korea as well. So the concept is that in the next couple of years, we train as many trainers as possible so that the national parties can automatically do these trainings online or after convention themselves at very low cost, that can keep the momentum going and keep strengthening their women's network, the women on their executives and the women as candidates. There we go. That's one of the photos of the Train the Trainers. This was our first Train the Trainers, March last year. So these women are now doing their own training in their own countries. They conducted the training in Chhattisgarh we spoke of previously. Next slide, please. These are the trainers we trained from Nepal that will lead the training they have in the next couple of months, just outside Kathmandu. Yeah, it was a very good sign at the end of their first training. They already set the time for their next training, which is a year later, which is great. And these are some of the women that are doing the training in Pakistan this weekend. Next slide, please. And these are the women in Bangladesh that we're working with to help build and strengthen their own network there, and eventually to do some gender equity training also. And a lot of these women have been through the mentoring program or are about to be in the mentoring program as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you very much for the thorough introduction. It's always good to once again be reminded of all the work that we've done, all the women that we've met, and their work moving forward. Now, once again, we would like to open the floor for some questions regarding the gender equity training and the Train the Trainers training. Okay, once again, if you have any questions, feel free to write your questions down on the chat so that we'll be able to attend to them later when our section's over. Michelle, did you have something to say?
Just to add that after doing the teaching training, which is slightly different from the regular training we deliver, it really helps if the trainers do 1 or 2 practical trainings and then they're really ready to go by themselves, I think. But it takes 1 or 2 just to get used to the way it's run, I think.
Thank you. Indeed, these trainings are, there are a lot of learning process. So first you become a trainee, and then once you have the training, you feel like you have all the material. However, it's the actual implementation and the organizing of the event that really helps you to understand what kind of details are required in creating your network, gathering people, and coordinating well with your party and your party executive. So the Train the Trainer training is something that we believe is one of our most important projects, because as said earlier, it's something that helps us not to only provide the training itself, but to train the trainer so that they'll be able to adjust the material and the training and reflect the actual need and actual demand of the party and of their women members in their party. Right. Now, next, I will share a bit about one of the case studies that APGFWN have collected from our member parties. As mentioned earlier, APGFWN has 18 member countries. We believe listening into their experiences and challenges is a great way to learn about projects related to women in green politics. Green Party Korea's She Will Run program was one of the case studies APGFWN received from member parties. She Will Run 2020 was aimed to foster and support young women who aspire to hold a green political career by providing them with a detailed step-by-step training toward a candidacy for the Korean general election. She Will Run was a year-long program divided into 4 phases. In the first 2 phases, it was open to anyone, member or non-member of Green Party Korea, who are interested, women member, who are interested in having a political career. And the latter 2 phases were open only to the Green Party Korea women members. The warm-up were composed of seminars provided by former Green Party Korea women candidates to previous elections. When it comes to incubation, there were actual training and networking. In the actual training, we opened workshops so that participants would be able to create their own small election campaign team, where one of them, 1 out of 5 member of their small election campaign team, would be elected as a candidate. With that, the team will go around different workshops which would guide them through speech writing, public speaking, election strategy building, narrowing down on election agendas and policies, public images and representation, and election merchandise designing as well. When it comes to acceleration and candidacy and election campaign, this is where the serious business is in. Now, in the acceleration process, you as a candidate of Korea Green Party will learn about the history and some of the agendas Korean Green Party strongly believes in. And you will then create your own campaign team. And in that process, Green Party Korea has provided basic income so that these candidates, these women candidates, will be able to focus more on their candidacy and campaign. With your team, you would narrow down your agenda. In so doing, you are obviously free to provide or to receive any guidance from Green Party Korea. When it comes to experienced former candidates, you can ask them for a seminar, you can ask them for reviews, and also with other staff members of Green Party Korea who have engaged in elections before on, what are some of the strategies, most effective ways to reach out to the public. In the candidacy and election campaign, you are asked again if you are willing to run as a candidate, because it's a completely different experience being in a program and being actually a candidate for a party. From the She Will Run 2020, 4 women who participated in the program ran as candidate. Now, She Will Run program, aim of the She Will Run program was to search and foster young female candidates. As we know, there are many women who are talented, who are interested in politics, but it's a completely different story when we encourage them to stand in an election. We need a lot more women to stand in an election and know that they can. And that was one of the aims of the She Will Run program. The second aim was to provide practical training of skill set. And third was to promote young women's participation in green politics. Many of the participants of the program, even when they decided not to run as candidates, became heavily involved and interested in Green Party's agendas and committee works and network works. Another aim is to convey and promote Green Party Korea's agenda. Once again, this helped, the program itself was open, the first 2 phases of the program was open to non-members as well. And we found that a lot of young women were actually quite interested in politics and green politics. And they got to know more about the Green Party Korea's agendas. We recruited new members, which was one of our aims. And initiating Green Party Korea's pre-election strategy also helped a lot, or the program helped a lot of that as well, because in carrying out the program throughout a year, we launched many webinar series and seminar series and other showcases and etc., where people could come in to look into what are some of the young women's concerns and issues and agenda for the election was. Now that's the end of the Shilwa Run program, summary of the Korean Green Party. If you have any questions regarding the Shilwa Run program, please ask away. Anita, did you have something to say? No. Okay, you're just getting ready for the gender equity toolkit.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Okay, now I hand it over.
I just want to say one thing, Suhi.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, I was just looking at the slides and I did not know much about the program, this in the Korean politics, but I must congratulate you. This looks like a wonderful, wonderful initiative. Yeah, this is all I had to say.
Thank you. It means a lot, and we also believe that it was something that that we always thought of, and we finally got to do. You know, carrying out a year-long worth of program isn't easy at all. So the project coordinators had to put a lot of effort and time and energy into it, and it led out to that success. So it's something that we're very proud of. Thank you. Michelle, did you have something to add?
Just to say, you had 4 women that stood as candidates following the training. Was that correct?
Yes.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, now I'll hand it over to Anita.
Thanks. So as we have been talking about so many other projects like mentoring program and gender equity training, so we have another project to add, which is Gender Equity Toolkit, and this is a tool to help APGF, Asia Pacific Green Federation women from member parties, so that they can understand what gender equity is and how it can be used to increase the women political representation and participation, including the leadership in the Green parties. So it is a set of guidelines, template policies, and case studies for Green parties to use it as a kit and provide them the same rights and benefits and equal opportunity in green politics. So it includes the structures, which are the examples from the different green parties implementing it in their parties, in their constitution, then policies, actions, roadmap, case studies. And my colleague and my mentor, Michelle Shidhar, will also be presenting some of the topics in this. So I will just talk about how the structures can be improved to improve the gender equity in the parties. So there are some of the member parties, we have taken the example to how they can implement structure and rules in their party constitution and bylaws or operational policies to improve women's political leadership. So here we can see the institutionalized gender equity within party constitution, rules and bylaws. So here is an example, the case study of the Greens Japan's constitution, which can be adopted, the gender equity framework to demonstrate the commitment and plan in the rules and constitution of the party. Then again, equal recruitment practice and representation can be done with the selection process, nomination for the candidate, and it is also introduced with the help of rules how it can be taken. So we have case study from UKPP, and the Green Party of Aotearoa New Zealand Constitution, and Western Australia Greens Constitution, and the Australian Greens Charter and Constitution. So this will help to have equal recruitment practices and representation within the party. So these are the set of examples from different parties. Also, the code of conduct and complaint and monitoring process in order to combat the poor treatment and harassment of women in the politics. And this can be implemented as code of conduct in the party so that there is a respect, because sometimes it never happens that it will not happen in my party, because something the patriarchy which is coming from generations has to be countered with this kind of processes. And we have the case study from Australian Greens anti-sexual harassment policy. Then the parties can also check that where they have discriminatory practices or the shortcomings in the context of gender inequity. So they can have a gender audit to understand. So this gives the opportunity to for the party members to view that where the gender equity is lying behind, and the sensitivity and the types of position men and women occupy. So the case study, the template of gender equity audit of a political party is also provided on the website, which will help to understand the parties. Then when you have done the gender audit, then you can plan an action plan for gender equity, that how it can be improved and implemented in the party by identifying the problems and shortcomings. Another addition to the structure is women's wing, which is really important, because as one of our colleagues said, that women are supporting women, and empowered women support the other women's, that would create a pool of women's working together on policies, and they have the perspective that where women are facing problems, or they share the skills with each other, and they also develop a strong recruitment plan, that how more and more women can be brought in the party. We have then there is a strategy to improve the gender equity, that is gender quotas, and we can see the picture here from the New Zealand Green Party, and I think they have 60% of the representation in their party. Also, the representation in the whole parliament is not that great, but the Green Party from New Zealand have gender equity, that is gender balance, that is 60% of women are participating. Though they mentioned in one of their sessions that still their constitution does not allow non-binary, they have to fit in the binary section. So but yes, they are working good, and there's you can see and read the constitution of New Zealand and Green Party Korea. Now my colleague, my friend, my mentor will talk about the policies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just having a gender quota system has been extremely important in many parties. And the reason a quota system is needed is it sets us a target and a goal to aim for. And it's agreed by the whole party, and it's out in the open, and it's something we try and achieve. So that's why quotas are very important. This is the Women and Gender Equity Policy that was agreed by the Asia Pacific Greens Federation of Parties. It's what we call a framework policy, so that each party can adapt it to their own rules and regulations that they might be bound by nationally, but also for any issue specifics that might be unique to their own party. It has, it's one of 20 policies inside APGF. It was the very first one that was done, which was great. Since the very first one, it's we've come up with the need to have some organizational party procedures. And so we've started to write documents on candidate selection that is very open for women candidates, on safe meeting procedures, on sexual harassment and grievance procedures. So we've found that in addition to a framework policy that is also our platform externally, we also need some internal mechanisms to carry these out. Next slide, please. So this is the vision for the policy, just to pick out a couple of key points, a lot is about equal access, equal representation of women in key decision-making positions is a game changer. Once we have more women in the executive that are making key decisions in the party, it attracts more women. It makes the decisions more gender friendly or gender neutral. And it's the beginning of having more candidates that are female or recognized as female as well. And it also makes it normal to have women in those roles. It's mainstreaming. It becomes usual. It's not unusual. And credit to the women that are breaking through and that are being the first in some key roles in these parties, because we need more examples of that too. This is what we call our action plan that was agreed by the Asia Pacific Greens Council. And part of the action plan is against, you can see on the left-hand side, the different subheadings. Part of the action plan is against discrimination. It's how people react, how people behave, what our overarching policies are. Also, we do have another policy relating to children and youth, but also that women, for example, are the main child carers in many societies around the world, most really, and that equal responsibility should be shared between men and women in that form. I think next slide, I think those speak for themselves. Here's some more resources we have. That's a United Nations video that's great to watch on 5 things you can do to improve gender equality in leadership. And again, we find that's an important place to start at the top as well as the grassroots. The policy also addresses sexual and reproductive health and the rights of women. In that regard, violence and women's safety, equal employment opportunities, the rights of sex workers, the rights of Indigenous and tribal women, rural women, how women are portrayed within the party and the party's media, as well as the external media, is also important. So we really encourage parties to have positive images of women and their women's network and their women's office bearers on their social media or on the websites and any materials they produce. It is worthwhile looking at the 5 things you can do to improve gender equity in the leadership, and that's the link there. These are just some of the key things. Legal and legislative frameworks are important. Refrain from any practice of discrimination. A very comprehensive framework looking at all the aspects that are involved. Women do most of the world's work, but own the least resources and the least land. So that's something for true economic reform that is needed. Recognizing the role of women in maternity and children and raising children, and to have structural changes needed too. We can have some tactical changes that are important, but to get to the root cause of the problem, we need to go to massive structural changes. Maramat Davidson is one of the co-leaders of the Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand. She's also a Minister for Family Violence and Sexual Violence. She was one of our guest speakers at one of our trainings. This is, again, just re-emphasizing some of the key points to guarantee more equal rights for women within the party and within society at large. Okay. Even ensuring women are involved in policy development from the ground up, from the very beginning, as opposed to making a comment once a policy is agreed on, is really a way to secure more meaningful interaction. For education, it's a huge issue to make sure that all girls and women have equal access to free education. In many societies, it's a huge issue. And that is good education going right up to tertiary level. So this is another aspect that we're looking at in our policy as well. Marriage and family relations and sexual and reproductive health are other key issues that we look at. Having the same rights as men to enter marriage and to not have forced marriages. It's a terrifying statistic, but there's an extremely high number of women that are still married off that are under 18 or even under 16. Employment. Equal opportunity for employment is one of the game changers to make sure that women do have equal pay for equal work. And then we have other points on supporting sex workers to be legal and regulated under civil law. There is, of course, a lot of trafficking issues and exploitation issues around that. And also recognizing the rights and struggles of Indigenous and tribal women and working with Indigenous and tribal women to help support their leadership and to support their struggles as well. And these are other sectors that we have identified as key. Rural women working in rural areas. Women do much of the labor in the fields in many countries around the world. Portrayal of women, as we talked about before, how women have very negative stereotypes at times in the media or through society, in other ways, through advertising, and to look at women in the media as well. We've also translated these policies to the 9 main languages used in Asia Pacific. So that would range from Mongolian to Japanese to Hindi to Pidgin English for the Pacific. And this is so that they're more accessible in these languages. And that's the end of the policy session, I think.
Thank you. Now Anita will share us about the action part. Anita, you're on mute.
Yeah, thanks. It takes sometimes, due to the internet connection is slow and it takes some time. So when we say gender equity, it has to be from, grassroots to different layers and the key positions. And for these, gender equity at different levels can be done with the help of actions. And I'll be talking about what actions we have to, take that we improve the gender equity at different levels. So one is the mentoring program, then that comes under training. And we have, like already we have mentioned other training programs like gender equity trainings and mentoring program. So it helps to improve the gender equity, and this has been done, and we have all these on the website. The case studies are available, like APGF WN online mentees training, and the case study from Green Party of Korea. Then we have the mentoring programs, and mentoring program involves mentees online training, one-on-one pair meeting, mentors online training, the next mentor internship program. So the mentoring program is also working in different layers, including the webinars. Then we have gender equity and gender sensitivity training. The reason is that women sometimes don't understand what gender equity is and what gender sensitivity is, but this training program really helps women to understand what gender equity, and this is my experience when I was first trained in 2019 by Michelle Sridhar along with Rachna, and this has really helped us to understand, and we have been trainers and training the trainers to help them understand what gender equity training is about and why it is important for women to be part of green politics, because green politics is only green when women participation is improved, increased, point by point. And yeah, other factors does matter, but the participation of women is very important. Then what helps with the actions, what does training do is that it restructures the women's network. It helps to revive the women's network, strengthen the women's network, and they work, like Michelle mentioned, that they work on their roadmap for 2 to 3 years, and including the party membership of 60% of women membership. So this also bring men and women together. Also, sometimes this helps men also to understand why gender equity is important in the party, in the politics, and all this actions, encourages the party to adopt gender equity measures outlined in the roadmap and policies, which already Michelle has explained. And also the electoral campaigning strategies, how it can, help. These are the actions, and this is to, expand the number of women candidates and support their placement in winnable electoral seats. Sometimes I have experience in my country, in India, that women are given those seats where they think that party is not going to win. But when the women's network, or we have more and more women in party, they lobby for women candidates to be placed in the winnable electoral seat, that will increase the women's visibility in overall in the party, and it can be supported by media and with specific messages highlighted. And there has to be recruitment, more and more recruitment for the women in the party. And it has to be, from the polling booth, from the polling stations to the key positions. It is not only that women are, holding the position for tokenism, and also working with other Green parties. This is the collaboration. Like right now, we are doing it, that we are sitting together with different Green parties leaders from different countries, and this is like this helps each other to understand and engage more women in the political process, and we learn from each other's activism, and this ensures that everybody feels safe. Yeah, I'm not alone. We have women from other countries like me. So now Michelle will be talking about the roadmap, that what exactly roadmap is.
Thank you, Anita. Hi, everyone again. This is the roadmap for APGF, for the Asia Pacific Greens Federation. And this is what all of the parties in Asia Pacific, of which there's around 22, are committed to. So they're committed to supporting gender equity. They are committed to collecting data on women's participation and leadership within parties and report that in annual reports. And that's important because data in gender equity is very important. So you can monitor progress, you can check the data, you can see how things are going. They agreed on a framework to help members to create a gender plan for themselves and to set targets, and to report and monitor and track the process. And they adopted a 3-year plan for gender equity that ended last year. And Rose asked in one of her comments what a lot was done in a short period of time. And I think that's because a lot of people, a lot of women had a lot of interest in doing this and achieving this as well. And then subsequently the wider network did. I think we can move on. This is the purpose of the document. This is just saying what APGF is doing on the data collection, and we did an extensive review of the data that was collected over the last 3 annual reports, plus a questionnaire we sent to member parties. And it gave us a good analysis of what has been achieved and what hasn't been achieved through national parties, and how we still need to work on getting more women as candidates and in party executives. But it was very interesting to do the 3-year analysis, and in 3 years, you can compare the annual reports from year to year. And the council has agreed to do another review in another 3 years. So getting a firm commitment from member and associate member parties to commit to the action plan was important. When the first commitment was made, it followed an extensive workshop with representatives from each of the parties, a face-to-face workshop on gender equity and what we were trying to do. And then by the time it came to the council meeting, people had a good grasp and understanding. So there was good briefings beforehand, and getting everybody to have a common understanding was an important part of that. Here are some of the targets and the monitoring that's really important that we've talked about before. Having targets or quota systems is one of the main situations that's making a big difference, as well as establishing women's wings. And then training a pool of women candidates is part of the next work that will be coming forward. some of the other experiences is sharing parties' experiences across countries and regions, getting ideas from each other, even though the situation might vary from country to country. In many ways, you can still get some cross-fertilization of ideas. We're doing, I think it's really important to invest in opportunities that promote women's involvement in leadership and office bearer roles, not just helping train women, but really looking at other opportunities for roles that we don't currently have. And I'm handing over to Anita again for next steps. Thank you.
We have the APGF framework to help and create gender equity plans for members, and where all the information is collected and set the realistic and ambitious targets, so that we can see the graph that it's growing, and the monitoring system to for the party for the achievements. And then we have the goals and objectives. So I think this gender equity whole toolkit helps to understand how the road mapping can be done, and what the goals and objectives can be set, and what a structure can be done, and what actions can be taken. Then I'll move next on to the case study. So here we have two case studies, one from Nepali Greens Party election 2017, and the Nepali Greens contested the federal election for the first time, and they fielded two women candidates. One was Rachna Shrestha and Smita Acharya. They were both the candidates were provided training to build confidence and public speaking skills, because as a candidate they need so many skills, and to understand the environment and climate change. The Greens, they definitely succeeded in promoting Green Party in the country, and they had a lot of learning from this election experience. And then we have a Green Party of Lebanon election 2018, where the two women candidates, Nada Zarour and the party, I think she is the founder of this party, and Vanda Ramia with one male candidate, they stood. And the this green campaign included door-to-door visits and local meeting. And they are now gearing up for 2022 elections. And here we have the links, whatever we have, presented regarding the gender equity, gender action plan, and all the resources are present in this links, and then other resources, and what gender equity and gender sensitivity training resources. So everything is available. Those who want to take, support from this link, they can, and if they want us to help them, we are happy to do that. And then I'll again hand over the mic to Michelle, and she will tell you more about the review of Gender Equity Roadmap.
I just realized time might not be on our side and we might need to speed up, but basically, I think I mentioned it before, we did a 3-year review. Happy to share that with any other party. It was quite a substantial piece of work to do it, and took us all quite a long time. We even had an intern help us with it. From that came some tangible action points, and recognizing that we've still got a long way to go with having women candidates and women in key roles. I would say since then, though, a couple of parties have moved to the co-convener relationship, like the Green Party of Indonesia and the Indian Greens, where they have both male and female conveners. We've also, since that review, come up with having our own policy on gender quotas and on other gender equity measures for parties to implement too. I'm happy to run through this very quickly, Suhi, because I think we're time poor. So I've covered a lot of these points before, so I'm happy to keep moving forward. These are some of the key outcomes that we came up with, and we'll watch the implementation over the next year. Back to you.
Yeah. So we have a webinar on 7th April 2022, and this will be explaining the details of the gender equity inside APGF, and will explain the findings, how the gender equity review of APGF member parties, gender equity status of last 3 years, and where we plan to go. And I would invite everybody to please join us, join with us this webinar, and Suhi and Q will be talking about this. And the event is already on our Facebook page, APGFWN page, and all the links are available in the last slide. Then we have upcoming mentoring pair intake in March 2022, and we invite mentors for this program. I have been sending emails to the Global Greens Women's Network email list to invite the mentors so that they can be part of this mentoring program. And yes, we are open to discuss the mentoring program to make it a global program. We are open to do that. If anybody is interested, we can discuss and work on it so that it can be in other part of the world also. We also have upcoming online regional training the trainers. So this is an advanced training. First pilot training was in March 2021, and then the next second training is in May 13 to 15, 2022. And we are training more gender equity trainers so that they keep training in their countries. And then our future plans are develop national mentoring program in national languages. Initially, it will be in Nepal and Japan. Then the gender equity toolkit for national parties to be translated. Policy is already been translated, and other parts of the toolkit can be translated. Also, we are discussing how to, subtitle or the dubbing of the key videos into APGF languages. National Women's Network can assist with that. And then we have already worked on the policy related to women development, the framework policies for national, like sexual harassment, good meeting procedures, and grievances. But right now it is in English. And then we already had our 3-year gender equity roadmap, which was agreed in 2021 AGM, and we will again review the 3-year plan after 3 years gender equity roadmap. Then we also, plan to develop an online module for women standing for elections. She will run, and it will be a translated version of South Korean Greens 2020 She Will Run program. So there is still a lot to achieve. We have been working. I saw Rose has mentioned in the chat box that how could you do such a huge work, but we still feel that still there is a lot to do and a lot to work, and we are working on that. So I would suggest, we quickly go through these slides that it influences the policies, and all the gender equity work is influencing. If we see how big is the women's network or the team of women working behind these all projects, is really the outcome of the efforts we have made through different projects. So you can reach us through these emails, and we have provided the website link, the page link, and the YouTube channel link. And over to you, Suhi.
Yes, thank you. All right. Now, that was quite an extensive list of things that we've done. Now, we are very proud because, and especially because these were something that were very tangible, practical. The programs that we provided, the projects that we initiated and launched were inspired by our own needs and demands. Our program coordinators have had experiences witnessing different difficulties and obstacles women in politics have to face. And those experiences and those observations and their own experience participating in green politics and green movement in general have inspired these practical list of available resources. So please make use of them. And if you have any questions, reach out to us. We're here to share our experiences, our resources. If you want to amend some of them to your own local context, please do so. So that's the end of our presentation. Is there any question? If there isn't any question, I would like to open the floor for some comments. What were some of your feedback, or were some of the questions or some of the comments that you would like to share with us?
People can only type in the chat box unless we give them speaking rights, Suhi.
Thank you. So, thank you, Anita. Anita just shared our website, which has everything that we have presented. So please make use of the website. And if any of you have any questions or comments, please feel free to comment and write them on the chat box in the Zoom.
Maybe a question could be for women that haven't been involved in the program yet. Do you feel that you could nationally, with your own party or regionally, use some of these resources and start some initiatives in your own countries?
Thank you, Michelle, for the question. Is there any participant who would like to share their story regarding their participation in your own Green Party or Green Movement? We welcome them all. Okay. All right. So if you had any other questions or comments about our program, and if you are unable to write them down on the chat just now because you're moving and listening to different things and you're attending different sessions, because we know that there are multiple sessions running at the same time for this virtual conference this time, you have our contact info, our APGFW and Co-Secretary Minami's contact info, and Anita, the mentoring program coordinator's contact info as well. So please reach out to us. Now, I would like to then conclude the session. We will be ending the session soon. We will be closing the Zoom call very soon. So once again, please make the best use of the resources. Anita has kindly shared all the links here on the screen, on the chat box. So please copy them, click onto them, check out what kind of webinars we have and the extensive list of resources that we have. And thank you very much for all your time. It's been wonderful, an hour and a half. And thank you for all the speakers, Anita and Michelle, and also our APGFWN office bearers who've been behind the scene, coordinating all this, making sure that we have perfect slides, making sure that we have all the people participating well, and catching all the questions. thank you very much for all your work, and go Greens.
Sui,
Yes.
I have given access, speaking access to everybody if anybody wants to comment.
Sure.
Yeah, I tried to do that.
Okay, thank you. All right. Is there any question regarding or any comment after hearing our presentation? All right. Now, we didn't take any group photo yet. So if all of you would like to open your video and show your face, our co-secretary Minami will be able to take the photo for us.
Can you stop the sharing of the presentation? That might help.
Will do.
Yeah, and remove the spotlight as well. Do you want to stop the recording now?
Okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't think I have access to like even camera. Like I can't put my camera on. I don't have the function
Ooh, okay. All right.
available.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Let's see.
Oh, would you have to add everybody as a panelist to get?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm trying to do it. I don't know whether it is working or not. Yeah.
Okay, hi everybody.
Hi, Aya.
How's
Hi, Aya.
everybody? It was a beautiful session. Thank you, everybody. I just wanted to say that that it works. Like if we have to choose to become panelists. I still can't start my video. I cannot start my video because the host has disabled it. I'm joining the session from Hoover. So those who are on Hoover, they can't really start the video or talk, I think.
Okay. All right. I see. All right. Now, because this is our first time doing a Hoover conference, we have a lot of details that we need to sort of keep up and fix and update ourselves on. All right. Well, even if it's just names, Minami, would you be able to take a?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
So 3.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Everyone ready?
Yeah.
All right. All right. 3, 2, 1. Greens.
Greens. All
Okay.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Jamia, did you have some comment?
No, sorry, that was the wrong button.
Thank you. All right. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for all your time. Please keep in touch and bye.